Hey, so this year hip-hop turned 50, and we've been celebrating these last few months with deep dives into all the ways that hip-hop has changed the world. Today on the podcast, you'll hear about the explosion of Indigenous hip-hop and why so many artists feel right at home in this genre. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Listen, here on Commotion, we've been celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip-hop by basically delving into some of the scenes and the movements that are really pushing this art form forward right now. And yes, it's true that rap was born in the inner cities of America, but in this country, the action is really popping off here.
You can't choke the life out me. Natives stand too tall like the trees I bring. They wanna cage us, lock us down. Why do you hate us? Oh Canada, why so hard on a native?
Came from the gutter, I need a reserve. Came from the gutter, we caught up in the res life. Came from the gutter, I need.
From 2018, that is the track Res Life, featuring rappers Violent Ground, Drezus, Q-Rock, Joey Styles, and Hellenbach. Maybe you can think of it as like the Northern Touch moment for a movement that's really been blowing up over the last decade or so, Indigenous hip-hop. I'm joined right now by the guy who created that track. David Strickland is here. He's a Grammy and Juno award-winning producer, an engineer of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Beothuk descent. He's in Toronto. We also got Vancouver's JB, the First Lady, a member of the Newhawk and Onondaga Nations. And in Winnipeg, Sal Ibrahim, better known as Sly, an MC of Ojibwe and Eritrean descent, who also co-hosts the annual International Indigenous Hip Hop Awards. Sly, JB, David, welcome to Commotion. What's good, everybody?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good.
What's up? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. I'm happy that you're all here. David, I'm going to start with you on this one because you've had the longest history in hip-hop. We're going all the way back to the late 80s. How would you say your relationship with the genre has evolved over the years?
Man, I'm just happy to be still working in the genre for so long. I really never expected, it was kind of like a dream. A lot of people was like making music as a dream. So yeah, for me, it was a dream. I was a teenager, when Rumble and Strong started, and I was doing shows with groups. I was an MC and a DJ back then, right? So like, being an engineer and a producer was never really
that wasn't the plan.
But hip hop's been good to me. I've been lucky to be able to participate and to have a career and, just to see some of the things I've seen. So, thank you to hip hop.
Sal, what about you? You have deep roots in the music going back to the 90s. Who were the artists that made you think, you know what, that's what I want to do?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, being the influence of hip hop, it's been a family thing of, inherited from my father listening to the beginnings of hip hop. And so, the early beginnings, listening to my dad's old cassette tapes, hearing, Funky 4 plus more, plus one more, or, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, hearing those early recordings, Africa Bambaataa. But then, of course, having my own influence of listening to artists like Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur. These were the legends, rest in peace, that I got to listen to on a daily basis on rotation in my cassette player or my CD player, and definitely influenced me to be an MC and get in the hip hop scene.
JB, I'm going to play you a track. It's not a track that is by you, but it's by someone who made a significant impact on you. Let's roll it.
When I wake, will I creep into daylight? Or will I hover like the wind?
From all the way back to 2003, Kenny Starr, Son Again. JB, I understand seeing Kenny play in Vancouver was this deeply formative experience for you. What did that performance spark inside of you?
Yeah, it was like other artists, like Manic Wonderful. I was 12, Skeena Reese. I was so young. And seeing like, I didn't have like an identity, and hip hop brought me my identity. It connected me to my own culture. So I was like into graffiti. I was into b-girling, and then MCing and seeing these storytellers like us as Indigenous people. We are oral history people. And for me, I'm when I make my music, I'm making oral history of what's happening in our communities. If it's, clean water for 90 reserves across Canada for the past 50 years, they haven't had that. If it's missing and murdered Indigenous women, I want to process all these heavy things as Indigenous people that we experience. Just like the Black community, I want to first acknowledge, the Black community for creating, this amazing culture of hip hop, not just only emceeing, but b-boying, b-girling, graffiti, DJing, and that reflects us as Indigenous people. We have all of those same elements within our own culture. In my family, my New Hulk family, in our ceremonies, they're raising me to be the speaker of our family, and in the potlatch ceremony. And I said, no, that's too much. And they said, no, you're already doing that through your music, through your teaching. I do a lot of workshops for youth. And hip hop has given so many gifts to me. And then in return, giving the gifts back to the community is so important. And I really feel, that our people and the Black community, Latin community, they needed that because they're stolen from their land, and we're on land that is stolen. So I really feel like, the Black community and Indigenous communities really reflect each other.
When you were speaking there, David just had a bit of a reaction when you said that hip hop connected you to your Indigenous roots. I find that idea really interesting. I want to talk about that with you. Maybe David, I'll put this to you, because in 2020 you put out this big album called The Spirit of Hip Hop, where you feature some of your famous pals like EPMD and Maestro, alongside Indigenous MCs like Snotty Nose Rezkids and Drazas. This is how you set the scene for that.
Hip hop to me is essentially native culture in the 21st century technological sense. The DJ is the drum. The MC is the storyteller. The b-boy is the dancer. The aerosol artist or the graffiti artist is the sand painter.
So that's the voice of Ernie Panicoli. He's a Cree photographer who's one of the most renowned hip-hop documentarians in the world. David, how would you say Ernie's words and teachings there impact the relationship between your culture and music?
Well, it's the same. It's like we got to stop labeling ourselves, because when you say Indigenous, Black, quote-unquote, Black people are Indigenous to somewhere, just not here. So they're Indigenous too. When we talk about Aboriginal people in Australia, they're Indigenous. So everybody's Indigenous to somewhere. That's why Q-Rock always says my native. We don't say that other N-word. We say my native. Everybody's native to somewhere, right? So it's positive, uplifting. But that being said, Ernie was bringing that teaching that, those elements, like JB was saying, are basically a part of our culture. And, the good thing now is what we're doing is we can document that oral history. We couldn't before. Right. That's what we're doing. So when Ernie brought that over, it really changed my perspective on my life and what I was doing. And that's why I was like, bigging her up when she was saying that, because that's how my story was. We were brought down here where I'm at. I'm not in my quote unquote territory, because that's also a colonizer term. There was no territories like that. So I'm not where my people are from, but I'm raised by people here. The disconnect was bridged by hip hop, not knowingly to me.
Right.
Because when I grew up with hip hop, I'm the same age as quote unquote that hip hop is. So, pardon me, I kind of naturally took to it as it was evolving, not really understanding why. So when Ernie put that into me, it kind of made sense and explained so much, because the people who I was working with, like that community embraces me and gives me so much love, but also at the same time, I put in so much work and sacrificed so much for myself, my children, the community, my love, my passion, just with blind faith, because who am I? I'm just a kid from Scarborough. Who am I to think that I could go to America and work with anybody? You feel me? This is and never mind what's happening now. Like it's always unbelievable to me. So Ernie, a man who's been there from the beginning as well, like he was like really there, that speaks volumes to me. And that's why our stories are so similar. And I'm really thankful for having him give me that perspective, because it changed my whole perspective on what I was doing. And it changed the record, just like I was saying yesterday, Kunle, when King Rain passed, that changed the whole album for me. My album was originally going to be just Indigenous, Turtle Island artists. It wasn't going to be what it was. But when King Rain passed, that changed. I put him on the record, and that changed the whole album. So in his passing, even in his passing, he had an impact. So I mean that's unbelievable to me.
It's a little wild how all roads kind of end up leading to King Rain a little bit. The theme music for this very show that we heard off the top is a King Rain instrumental. Wow.
Amazing.
Sal, hip hop is about representing where you're from, and for you that place is Winnipeg. Let's have a listen to this.
Come on and take a walk with me on these cold ass streets. Now tell me what you gonna see when you on a concrete. Too many people suffering and they end up homeless. No money, so they struggling. Got them feeling hopeless. Cause it's the rich against the poor. Now who's gonna survive? My people freezing outside, staying up all night. If y'all can stop being greedy, you can help the needy. That's why I'm singing this song, cause it hurts me deeply. Take a look into your heart.
This is Sal Ibrahim, aka Sly, with the 2022 single Problems. Winnipeg is home to the largest Indigenous population of any city in the country. It's also a place where Indigenous people are disproportionately affected by crime, by poverty, by addiction. What do you want people to know about your city by listening to your music, Sly?
I mean, these are my roots. I'm born here. It's very multicultural in Winnipeg, but, we're in the center of Canada. We're the most, like you said, native populated city in Turtle Island. To me, it's important to let people take a glimpse around the rest of the world. I like to call it a worldwide Winnipeg, where people get to know about the issues, get the awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous people, as well as, all the issues that affected, residential schools that, happened in our history of our families. So I'm that intergenerational effect of that happening, that impact. So, I'm trying to break those barriers. I'm trying to break free of those issues that affected my family, that affected all of our Indigenous people that live here and across Turtle Island, that, that turned to drugs and alcohol and addiction and, poverty and, trying to break free of that and show the world that, to take a glimpse and that it's relatable, right? Missing and murdered happens all over the world. Drug addiction and alcohol addiction happens all over as well, but it's so affected here where it impacts people on a daily basis. So, I want to paint that picture through my words, really, give people the goosebumps to really, have them see where I come from.
Yeah. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion, and on today's podcast, we are hosting a very special Indigenous hip-hop summit with MCs JB, the First Lady, and Sly, and producer David Strickland. JB, we're going to take a listen to one of your tracks now.
Canada, lives and lives, reconciliation, snakes in disguise. While they take Indigenous lives, genocide in slow-mo. I see you, Justin Trudeau, white paper 2.0. When the tension is high, relatives with the signs, women warrior front lines. This is our time. When the tension is high.
From 2018, as JB, the First Lady, with the track Frontlines. This is one of those tracks, JB, where you're not holding anything back. You're calling out the RCMP, you're calling out Justin Trudeau, you're calling out the residential school system. This is heavy stuff, but also in the middle of that heavy stuff, you bake in this hopeful message. This is our time. Like, there is sort of the push and pull between those two things. Where do you find your sense of hope here?
Yeah, it's definitely through the music. I do a lot of frontline work. So I'm out there making posters. I'm out there searching for loved ones. I'm putting on candlelight vigils. I am shutting down the streets and putting on marches. So I'm not just like like I'm talking the talk, I'm walking the walk as an Indigenous young woman. And a lot of our young women are doing the heavy lifting on the front line, on the streets, that are bringing awareness to missing and murdered Indigenous women, that are defending the land, standing up for our relatives that are mistreated by so many different systems that are, you know, that were built against our Indigenous people. But when I make my music, it's to make a stand and to process all of the work that I do, that me and my sisters do on the street, because we need that medicine, because it's such heavy work. We, you know, we as Indigenous people, we put our recommendations forward for our, you know, our residential school survivors. TRC has 96 recommendations, calls to action, which we should all be looking at. And like, for our missing and murdered Indigenous women, we have over 200 recommendations. And still to this day, a lot of those recommendations have not been looked at or followed through by all levels of government. And we need that. So for me, the music is to push it forward. And like, I want to give acknowledgements to the matriarchs of hip hop, you know, Cynthia Smallboy from War Party, Equal from Saskatoon, and also the matriarch of Indigenous music, Buffy St. Marie. She makes political anthems, and she's the one that I follow down that path. Right. So to bring awareness to our Indigenous people. And that's, I just love Buffy St. Marie so much. She did so much. I feel like if she was born in this era, she would make hip hop music, but she was and it was so classic, you know.
Amazing.
So I
love this widespread agreement about this idea that if Buffy was working right now, that's the mode she'd be operating in.
So, yeah, like, so can somebody convince her now to do?
I think you might be the person to do that. I think
get her to do a verse. Hey. If Jellystone could get Nelly Furtado to rap, why not?
She actually asked me to make some of her songs hip hop, and I did. I have 2 tracks that I created, and it will be coming out next year. Yeah. I have a music video of Starwalker and It's My Way as a collaboration and made it into hip hop. So watch for that music video coming out in the new year.
David, we got to ask you, you know, now that Indigenous rap has become so popular that it has its own award shows, should we even be considering it its own genre anymore? How do we walk this fine line between mobilization around a certain idea and giving it energy and giving it air to breathe, but also ghettoization in the sense of sort of keeping it within its certain confines? How do you balance those two?
Yeah, that's been the, you know, it's a conundrum for me because, you know, the message, you know, myself and Q Rock and Ernie have been saying is that, like, you know, we've put ourselves outside of hip hop when really we are a part of hip hop. It's just hip hop. You know, when I did the space with Apple Music with the Indigenous sounds and the Shakedown playlist, the Indigenous hip hop playlist, I was at odds with myself because I'm like, I'm trying to say, hey guys, let's not disconnect ourselves from hip hop. We are hip hop. Mm-hmm. We deserve to be in the same, like with my project, I was like, they'll put us in the Indigenous category. We should get played everywhere with everybody else, right? So when we did that playlist, one of the reasons it struck with me is because I could search on Apple and I couldn't find any Indigenous hip hop, but I could find Russian rap and, you know, all kinds of rap music from all over the world. So I was like, hey guys, why don't we have this? Mm-hmm. Even though, you know, but the idea is to bring attention to ourselves, right? And again, if you go back to the documentary we did where I said, you know, nobody's broke through yet. Right. We keep getting so close, but nobody's broke through on the mainstream, and that's what we need. Even I didn't break through on the mainstream. Right. I don't know, but as far as I'm concerned, to the point when I say that, I mean like an Indigenous artist, MC, #1 on Billboard. Right. Or something to that effect.
That's how you measure breaking through.
That I have to because of what I'm involved with in all, you know, with the squad, with you know, all the other people I work with. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't want to say names. It's not even important. But when you get to a certain level, that's where you get that attention. Yeah. We're still underground as far as I'm concerned. You know, and ain't nothing wrong with that. I've always been a catalyst for underground music because that's where the best music is. Yeah. But at the same time, we can still make our music and reach those levels. And we deserve to be in those spaces, in those doors. We don't deserve to just be, give them a one tune, a one spot at a thing. We deserve to be celebrated and on the same platforms as everybody else. And that's really what this has been about for me. It's not about me at all. Right. My journey and ceremony and other things brought me to where I did this for the reasons I did this. You know, it's like she said, it's medicine, you know, and the world needs that medicine from us. It's different than other people. So, it's hard for me to just be like, nah, y'all can't, be on our own. But like, there is some unity. We have a wave. So that's why I'm always like, we can't be like fighting amongst each other. We have to be unified, and we have to show that. And a lot of people are, and there's a lot of great things happening, but it's amazing to see that force that's come with that because I'm in hiding out doing my thing. But when I poke my head out and I see, wow, we're making a difference. And that's all that matters, is we just got to keep moving forward and pushing. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard one to answer.
I think for me, it looks like there's really like a balance, right? I think there's like different tiers, right? You got the mainstream, you got the underground, you got even grassroots. Like, I think there's artists who just want to be grassroots and talk about
we always had that in hip hop. There was always the underground,
the different tiers of hip hop,
but we don't have none of those mainstream guys yet. You know what I mean? The closest thing we had was Tribe Called Red, Hallucination, but to me, that's more like dance music, right? You know. Right. It's like in wrestling. They have, we had Indigenous wrestlers, but now they got a new one. Finally, like they got a real guy who's, so it's like.
And you want to get the championship belt. You're trying to get to the top.
Well, like we haven't had anybody like that in a while. So it's like, okay, cool, like dope. They have like, even in like in AEW, they have somebody from Six Nations who's a wrestler, and I like seeing that representation. So I'm like, all I'm saying is, if you turn on, the Grammys or whatever, we're not there. They're letting us come for other stuff, but I'm talking hip hop, MCs. I want to be there. I want to see somebody up there with Kanye or Drake or whoever.
So
we're on that level.
As kids, they're like totally making super waves. Like they're traveling and touring so much, and they're on Polaris Prize. I believe it's 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, man.
And it's like incredible. And I'm really excited for their journey. They just got signed to Sony. And
there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's how it begins, right? It's like that's how that journey to the number one begins.
You don't know. I mean, they might be the ones. Those
you know what?
Still young.
That's what we're gonna do on this show. We're gonna go out on some snotty nosed Res Kids, but in the meantime, David Strickland, JB, the First Lady, Sal Ibrahim, aka Sly. I appreciate you guys being here, and I'm waiting too for that moment of that Indigenous hip hop artist who's gonna go all the way to number one. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir.
Appreciate it.
See you guys.
I just feel like Henry Hill, except my suit is leather. I just came to get the cheddar, less you know the better. Never tell them what you're doing, trust we good fellas. I'm a trendsetter, I don't rock no Gucci sweater. I'm well spoken, thought provoking, and the sage is smoking. Language keepers in the building, and the coppers broken.
That is Snotty Rose Res Kids with Dylan Ponder. The single is Trendsetter. This track just won Collaboration of the Year award at the International Indigenous Hip Hop Awards. And that is really it for the show today. But listen, one last thing to tell you about before we go. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke with Vancouver author Alex Kazemi. He's got this debut novel. It's called New Millennium Boys. It's this coming-of-age story that explores the underbelly of Y2K boyhood. Sounds great, and I think you should probably read it for yourself. We are giving away a copy of New Millennium Boys. You can find that on our Instagram. Go to @CommotionCBC for all the details on how you can win. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. I'm going to be here tomorrow. See you then.
Bye, Felicia. You see us all around you. I see you when I see you. I can see the future, man. I feel like